In an interview today with Eamon Holmes, James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary, has said that a Labour government would take us into the sphere of the EU. That's a long way of saying that a Labour government would start the process for rejoining the EU. Well, I do hope so. I have my fingers crossed. But he calls this a rip-off to the hard left. Well, I don't think that's the case. The hard left actually, in so many ways, wanted to leave the EU. It's the moderates in the Labour Party. It's the moderates in the Conservatives who may well have voted Remain. But it doesn't matter whether people voted Remain or leave. What matters is the chaos and the sort of pathetic attempt to create a workable Brexit, which hasn't happened. It was left in the hands of Lord Frost, this silly man who doesn't read his paperwork. He doesn't read his paperwork. How do I know this? How do I know this? And this is the key. The key is that just before the general election, Lord Frost, who was made a life peer, decided that he wanted to become a member of the House of Commons. He wanted to stand for election. The point is, there are 3 laws, and none of them allow for a life peer to renounce their peerage. The most recent one, 2014, the reform of the House of Lords, does allow a life peer to resign from the House of Lords, but he doesn't resign, or she doesn't resign, her title. That is in the gift of the King, or in the 1917 legislation that allows for senior members of the peerage to be stripped of their peerage for being involved in traitorous behaviour, supporting the enemy. I don't think that's exactly what Lord Frost has been done. So he could be stripped of his peerage, which I don't think would give him an opportunity to go and stand as our representative in the House of Commons. He cannot renounce his peerage. Only hereditary peers can renounce their peerage, and then they must do so within a speedy, a timely manner, and they must do so according to specific rubrics and regulations and paperwork. And that was a law set up to allow Tony Benn to become, to keep his place in the House of Commons when his father died, and he became a member of the House of Lords rather unexpectedly. So there are only 3 laws at the moment relating to the House of Lords, and none of them allow for a life peer to renounce their peerage. The only way to do it is to do it in disgrace and to have that peerage stripped from him. So this is why I know that Lord Frost is a twit, because he doesn't read the small print, even relating to his own title, his own position. And this is the man who didn't read the small print when he was negotiating Brexit. This is the man who is single-handedly responsible for the small boats crisis, because he didn't read the rubrics around the renunciation of Dublin III. And this is the man who single-handedly kept Stormont out of power for so many years because he didn't read the rubrics about the Northern Ireland border with the Republic of Ireland. This is a man who doesn't do the work. This is the man who is lazy, who is useless, who is, to put it in a very simple word, a twit. And this is the man who negotiated Brexit. Why are we surprised that Brexit is a disaster? Because it was negotiated by a twit. It was delegated to a twit by Theresa May, by Boris Johnson. Twits. If you delegate to a twit, you are yourself a twit. And while I concede that Theresa May has some good reason to earn that title. I think Boris was capable of doing significantly more. In the end, Boris degenerated not only into twitdom, but also deception and being found out. So I suppose he has earned his title. So that is why Brexit doesn't work, because it was handed to a twit. I concede that Brexit could have worked. I concede. Any situation that is voted for could work, but it needs to be in the hands of people who understand what they're doing. And our civil service has kowtowed for so long to rules and regulations from Europe that it's no longer functioning effectively. We can see that in the legal system, in the NHS, in the police force, in local government. The civil service is in chaos. And it's so beautifully exemplified by the chaos in the Home Office. All those asylum seekers, all those migrants kept in hotels because the civil service is too lazy or too incompetent or too overblown to actually do its work and process those applications. It's not rocket science. It's hard work. Again, this is a demonstration of laziness. So to wag your finger, James Cleverly, and talk about the Labour Party taking us into the sphere of the EU, well, if the sphere of the EU is capable of doing bureaucracy, I may not like that bureaucracy. I may think, and I do think, that the EU bureaucracy was something that badly needed reforming, but are we the people to reform the EU's bureaucracy when we can't even do what we say we're going to do? When we hand the implementation of Brexit to a twit? I think James Cleverly is simply spreading some sort of fear here, and this is the last nail in the coffin of Conservative ideology. The Conservatives will not survive this demonstration of stupidity.